for joining us today. My name is Aisha Taylor Issa. I'm the founder and CEO of the Sisters in Business Expo. We're the country's only multi-city small business expo created to celebrate entrepreneurial women of color. And we are excited to present today as part of our Sisters in Business University webinar series, a course on tax tips during tough times. There have been a lot of announcements and changes and just information that is coming out rapidly as we go from day to day throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. And we wanted to be sure that our community of small business owners was well informed and had a resource and outlet in case they needed some assistance with how this is going to impact their taxes, as well as their general accounting for their business. And so we're really excited to have with us today Alysha Harvey. Alysha Harvey is the president and CEO of Sistahs Tax Consulting Group. They have been a partner and supporter of the Sisters in Business Expo since last year. And Alysha is just a tax guru. She's all things tax. She eats, sleeps, and breathes taxes. She's my personal accountant and tax preparer, both personal and business. And she is just really on point when it comes to this type of information. I don't know how she keeps up with all of it, but she does. And she leads a firm in the Atlanta area, but they do service clients all over the country. And so we're excited to have her with us today. So I'm going to turn it over to Alysha to continue introducing herself. She can explain to you what all those letters mean behind her name, because I don't know. And she'll jump right on into it. So thank you again for being with us. She'll let you know how she's going to handle questions. I think you can post them throughout. So if you have any questions at any time, please use the chat or the Q&A feature. I'll be checking both so that we can get to your questions, because we do want you to be, engaged and be able to participate. So don't feel like you have to be silent. Chime in, ask questions, and make the best use of this time as you possibly can. Thank you all so much. And Alysha, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It's definitely a great honor to be a part of the Sisters in Business University. You guys have been doing amazing things for sure. Definitely happy to be a part. So, of course, today we'll be talking about tax tips during tough times. Now, of course, if there are any topics or any questions that you have throughout, feel free to post those questions, and I'll get to a good stopping point and answer those questions here. So just to go over a little bit about what is it that we do and who we are. So Distinct Tax Consulting Group, we help companies and corporations nationwide. Currently, we have clients in 29 states. That's 2 in addition to last year. So definitely growth is in the making, but we help you and your company minimize your tax burden, only apply law, to proactively look for opportunities to possibly eliminate that through proper planning. So of course, having tax plans and having your accounting systems in place, those all help minimize your tax liability. So then just a little bit about myself. So I have my bachelor's of Business Administration and Accounting from Savannah State University. That's down in Savannah, Georgia. And then I received my master's of accountancy from Kennesaw State, which is up in Marietta, Georgia. That's a little north of 285 if you're around the Atlanta area. And that's where the MAC comes from, Master's of Accountancy. And then I'm also an IRS enrolled agent, and I'm an accountant as well. So through like the love of numbers and, just helping clients find solutions or whatnot, after working for several CPA firms, that's when I realized that, hey, I wanted to do a little bit more to help out businesses grow. Because some of the CPA firms I worked for, I believe they could have definitely done more. So then, of course, a little bit about my personal life. So yesterday was my Founders Day for Tau Beta Sigma. That is a national band sorority. I'm also a member of Delta Sigma Theta, very active within my alumni associations with Savannah State University, as well as Kennesaw State University. So just to give you just a little information on what is an enrolled agent and what is an accountant. So an enrolled agent, that's a federally licensed tax professional or practitioner. So we have unlimited rights to be able to represent all taxpayers nationwide within the United States, whether it's advice, it's representation, if we're handling personal or corporation returns, preparing the returns or amending them, you know, that's something that we can do without any restrictions whatsoever. But we are the only federally licensed tax practitioners who specialize in taxation. So you do have certified public accountants, you have tax attorneys, and then you just have people who operate a tax office. But we're the only ones that are federally licensed through the IRS. Okay, so CPAs are licensed by the states that they practice in. And then, of course, we're licensed through the IRS. So that gives us permission to do everything throughout the United States without, again, any restrictions. So what an accountant does, an accountant usually handles your bookkeeping and preparing your financial statements, such as like your profit and loss statements and your balance sheets and even more. So accountants, we normally can advise on business structures. We can issue invoices that you have, some sales, recording that. And then of course, you know, running reports and to give you more information on your financial well-being. So, and again, those are just 4 bullets. There's a laundry list of things that accountants can do, depending on, you know, their specialty, their niches, and, you know, their experience of what they can and cannot do. So it's always good to hire an accountant, especially during this time for sure, because the accountant is the one that's going to help you during those planning stages. Even if you're in the beginning and you're like, I can't afford an accountant, you still need to hire one, or at least hire them for consultations at minimum, because you don't want to start a company and start operating a company, and then next thing you know, things just start tumbling, and it's pretty much like a domino effect, and you just feel like you're deep into a hole that you cannot get out of. So, you know, whether it's planning in those beginning stages, it's giving advice, or actually handling your financial reports or whatnot. So, of course, the big thing that's going on right now, of course, is the coronavirus. So information has been spreading very quickly. Rumors have been started. I mean, it's again, like Aisha said, it is very difficult to keep up with a lot of this, but you have to be able to decipher between what we call fake news and real news. So I like to give notices. I like to give IRS code sections, even though you may be like, I have no clue what any of this is. But just to give a few tips of what's been going on right now. So the IRS did extend all tax deadlines that are due April 15th. They've extended that to July 15th. So that includes C corporations and individuals, okay? And so that's also anyone who may have had a fiscal year that ended, say, December, and like a nonprofit where their return may be due in May, but May has not been extended yet, okay? So that's a very big, note to take. If you have a nonprofit, your return with the fiscal year end of December 31st, it's very important to know and understand that that deadline has not been pushed back as of yet. And when I say yet, as of this morning, because the IRS, they have definitely minimized the amount of staff that they have. And it's, of course, not by choice. So definitely, be patient with them, as well as with us as we're going through all these transitions. So for any business owners that are making estimated payments, so what people may say, oh, I'm making my quarterly payments. So with those have been extended. The ones that are due on April 15th, that has been extended to July 15th. But that's not to get it confused with the next quarterly payment that's due June 15th. That one has not changed right now. So yes, there will be a payment due June 15th and another payment due July 15th. So definitely keep that in mind. Do not forget about the June 15th quarterly payment if you're making those estimated quarterly payments right now, again, as self-employed, right? So those are people who may have partnerships or anyone who may have a Schedule C, or you're like a solopreneur or sole proprietor, or a single member LLC. Those are for those people who have to make those estimated payments. Okay, so they did put out there that no, they're not putting any more limits on how much you owe the IRS. Before they had $1 million limit and some other changes, but now there's no limit. So everyone's payments have been extended to July 15th. So that was definitely a misconception when they were releasing these different notices out here. Now, the other big thing that's going on is the penalties, interest, and failure to file. So if you're normally one of those late filers that are like, I'm not filing right now, or I can wait type of person, now they are disregarding or eliminating those those penalties, those the interest, and any additional penalties such as failure to file or failure to pay. So that's a big one. That's a huge one, because that could save people hundreds of dollars, even thousands. Because even when you extend your return, that does not extend the time for payment. But again, because of the COVID-19 right now, we are having an advantage here to save on paying that right now. We can pay it July 15th. Okay, so, but they have not stated, and that's the other thing. It can be, again, a lot of it is very confusing, but they haven't stated whether it's extending a lot of different things that we normally do in terms of tax planning or strategy by April 15th. But the ones that they did extend were the IRA contributions and the health savings accounts. So that one extended until July 15th as well. For anyone who handles or deals with IRA accounts, so those individual retirement accounts, or like SEP IRAs and Roth IRAs or whatnot, people who deal with those, we have until July 15th to make those contributions for 2019. So we do not have to rush right now to make that by April 15th. I know a lot of people, many of my clients will rush and make that payment on the 15th of April, but now we have a little bit more time. So I would definitely recommend to take full advantage of this extended amount of time, to create additional savings or whatnot. Surely do that. But as I was saying, they have not extended any other dates or any other forms that are beyond April 15th. So definitely keep that in mind. Now, whenever there's an extension filed, normally that extension gives you an additional 6 months. Okay, so I know what we do for our clients for the returns that were due March 15th. We went ahead and extended those because many people were not really ready for all of this change that happened so drastically in terms of our actions and reactions to the whole situation. So we've extended those, but if you are not able to file by July 15th, so say COVID-19 is still going around, people are still at home, and they're not ready to get out and about, you can still file that extension and it will give you until October 15th. Okay. Now, if they decide to extend an additional amount of time, of course, we'll, give some more updates at that point. But right now, all the returns will be due by July 15th that were originally due April 15th. And then if you need to extend, you have until October 15th. So it looks like we have a question. Let's see. As a LLC, do I need to make quarterly tax payments to the IRS in addition to my state taxes? So I'll answer that first part. It looks like a 2 or 3 part question. Yes, you will, as long as you have profit. If you do not have profit, then there more than likely will not be any quarterly tax payments. So if your company operates at a loss, and you'll know that from your prior year return, as well as your current monthly financials or quarterly financials, you'll know if you're operating at a loss. But I would definitely consult your accountant or tax professional to see if you need to make those payments. I know what we do, we go through on a quarterly basis to see if there's estimated payments needed. If not, then we don't say anything. So that's definitely something to consider, and reach out to your tax professional for sure. And then how do you file quarterly estimated taxes with the IRS? So the correct term is quarterly estimated tax payments. And you can go to the irs.gov website. And within the beginning of the website, on that homepage, they have a block of 9, it's probably about 6 or 9 different quick clicks on their homepage. And so on there, it should say make a payment. You can click that, follow it through. You can make your payment either through a bank account or a credit card. Of course, there is a credit card fee or processing fee. But if you're one of the ones that's like myself, that enjoys my points and everything else, whether it's Sky Miles or travel points or points that you use to get a hotel or whatnot, it's definitely worth using a credit card to get those points for those estimated tax payments. And let's see, this will be your first time filing any quarterly state and federal estimated taxes for your LLC. Yeah, and that can be a scary thing in the beginning because it's something that you've never done before. Of course, even when you started your business in the beginning, it can be a very scary thing. But make sure that you double check. You have to look at what your business is doing today. What are you projected to do? In terms of what I mean to do, what is your net profit? What are your gross sales looking like? Are you able to minimize some of your expenses, or have you maximized all your expenses and you still have profit? Because those estimated payments, if we calculate that today, that could be, say, $5,000 every quarter. But then if we go back and say now it's July, and because we have COVID-19 going on, a lot of businesses are seeing a decline in sales. So that estimated payment you may not need to make towards the end of the year, or that next quarterly payment, you might be able to skip it without a penalty. But I don't want you to, try that at home and you might mess it up or whatnot. I don't want you to, to do any of that. But you can surely, you can give us a call if so. We do run that as a complimentary service for our current clients. And but if it's anyone that wants to reach out, we can definitely talk about what your options are for sure. Okay. All right, so then let's move on over to some of the IRS limitations and some of their recommendations. So I know a lot of people are talking about the stimulus checks and what's going on, but we'll get to that. But right now, the IRS, they're working on limited staff. So a lot of their help desk options, even the priority professional hotline, that's like our secret back door, for us to be able to get things done, they've even shut that down until further notice. So if you do decide to call the IRS lines, their 1-800 number, do take note that someone may not answer your call. I know even before this, someone probably didn't answer your call then, but people are really not answering phones now. They've actually shut down 2 of their centers that's in Cincinnati and Fresno because of, again, COVID-19. And their third one, Ogden, was affected by an earthquake recently. So they may be down or limited. And again, they do foresee that their other call centers may be shut down as well. And again, it's not forever. And even though they're saying until further notice, we all know it's until, you know, the COVID-19 subsides, or when whenever it slows down in terms of spreading. Again, everyone is trying to adjust to this new normal right now. So they do have a lot of staff that's working remotely, just as you probably are now. But what they do also recommend is for anyone who has not filed any of their prior year returns or their 2019 return, they're still processing refunds if you are due a refund. They're still processing those. And for anyone who has not filed, you need to go and file those prior year returns. There are definitely millions of people that have not filed, and that's, you know, their occurrence every year. And a lot of these people that have not filed are due a refund. So whether that refund is, you know, $5, $500, $5,000, it's still your money. So you still want to get your money as quick as possible. Now, if you are the DIY type of person and you want to go and file any prior year returns, so prior year meaning 2018 and before, if you are going to file any of those returns, you will have to mail that, which means you have to leave your house, right? Because, and I say you have to leave your house because you need to get to a post office to mail it certified. Because if you mail it as a snail mail or regular mail, there's no guarantee that the IRS is going to receive it. And they've been notoriously known for saying we didn't receive that. So that's something, you know, to consider. Now, if you decide to go with a tax professional, which I do highly recommend, the tax professional or your accountant, I do recommend to go with them because we can file your 2017, your 2018, and your 2019 electronically. Whereas if you go through a DIY software, you can only file 2019 currently. But again, they give you, you know, their guidelines of how they'll file. But I don't recommend to paper file those returns right now because, again, like I stated in the previous bullet, the IRS, they've shut down some of their call centers and a lot of their staff are working remotely. So if you're mailing in something, that's definitely going to take them even longer time periods to go and process your return and then to process the refund. So in the past, we all know that the IRS, they're very slow to process a lot of things. So we want to make sure that we process it in the most efficient and quickest manner as quick as possible. And that's why I recommend to e-file those returns and get with your tax professional. So it looks like we have another question. Is there also an extension on payments to IRAs? Yes. So your traditional IRA right now can still be paid on July 15th. And so they extended that from April 15th to July 15th. So we want to make sure we get those payments in by July 15th. So, you know, take some time now to go and get, you know, a little bit more time to gather those funds because you can contribute up to $5,500 to your IRA and deduct that, and that's a traditional IRA. And then, of course, if you're over the age limit, then you can contribute up to $6,500, what we call the catch-up, that extra $1,000 catch-up. So I don't, of course, the one that's asking the question, I know you're not within that age range, so you can you can contribute your 5,500 by July 15th for sure. So, of course, with all the changes and the changes that are coming quickly, I was really surprised that the IRS went and pushed out, hey, we have tax credits available. So, of course, with everything else, there's stipulations and different things, different levels to have access to these types of credits. So right now, the IRS is providing tax credits for paid sick leave. Okay, and so that's for people who have W-2 employees, right? So you have your paid sick leave. Also, they have a tax credit for childcare. Now, this is totally different from the tax credits that you normally have with your tax return. So for the employers, this is an immediate, and I stress that, an immediate tax credit right now, where if you go and pay your employees for sick leave, they will reimburse you 100% of that paid leave. And that includes like your health insurance cost, your not having a payroll tax liability. So for anyone who runs payroll on your employees, you know what I'm talking about. So say, for example, your employee gets paid $1,000 a week and we're running them through payroll. So for the employer, it costs you a little bit more than $1,000 a week, even though the employee may only see, say, $800. It actually costs you, say, $1,200, right? Or maybe even $1,100 to run that payroll because you have your employer portion of those taxes, right? So the employee only sees the part that comes out of their check, and then you'll hear them say, "Oh man, I didn't, they ate the taxes ate all my checkup, or the taxes took almost half of my check." You'll hear those type things, or maybe you were one of the employees that made that statement. So it's totally different on the employer side. So we incur additional taxes for having employees, which is why most people prefer contractors, because if you're paying them $1,000, you get $1,000. But the tax credits, they're very advantageous at this point if you are going to pay your employees sick leave during this time for COVID-19. And the employees can receive up to the 80 hours of the paid sick leave. And of course, I won't go into too much detail because this then becomes a payroll matter in order to get this handled. So it's a combination of your accountant and your payroll, but I won't go into too much detail on the payroll side. I'll talk about the tax part. But you can pay the employees up to about 80 hours. And then of course you can expand it through child care leave that also qualifies as well. So that could be for the child's school is closed, or the child care or the daycare provider is unavailable, or they have closed. We have several daycares as clients now who have closed their doors, and some are still remaining open. That some of them have closed for just to sanitize the entire daycare facility, and then reopened back up for nurses, doctors, and any essential workers. And so you have others that have decided to close. But if they decide to close, then as the employer, you can pay your employees for that time off as sick leave, okay, during this time. When will they cut this off? I'm not exactly sure. But of course, if you need additional information on how to qualify for this credit or how to retrieve this immediate credit, I definitely recommend for you to reach out to us so that we can help you get this credit rolling. So it's an immediate. So the IRS is, of course, the ones that's providing this tax credit and the reimbursement. So the initial information that was posted said that they were doing it immediately. So like same day, next day, same week type of immediate. But it's now been updated to as quick and easy, as quick as possible from the IRS to process that refund of that 100% reimbursement of paid leave. Okay. So some of the other things that for the small business protections and to qualify for it. So you must, as the employer, you must have 50 or fewer employees to be eligible for this. So that's a big one, which is majority of small business owners. Okay. And then of course they have implemented a requirement that is subject to a 30-day non-enforcement period for good faith compliance efforts. So this statement meaning there has different interpretations to it, but we want to look at it as, okay, they're taking it as good faith. They're not necessarily going back and forth with you regarding your documents or any type of compliance requirements at this point. And again, that's 30 days, right? So they could expand it. They could go and add more restrictions. And right now, if you apply for it, so far, you will qualify for it as long as you meet those few restrictions or qualifiers, such as, having less than 50 employees. So again, if you are looking for these immediate tax credits and you have employees on payroll, then that is definitely something that you want to take advantage of right now. Oopsie. Let me move back there. That's something that you want to take advantage of right now, for sure, because we don't know how long this will last or if they will cut it off. So this is something that, I recommend to go ahead and get under your belt right now and qualify for the credit and apply for that credit so you can get that 100% reimbursement for that paid leave that you've been paying your employees. So the big kahuna, I guess you like to say, the stimulus bill. So right now, the Senate did pass the bill on their end. So now we're waiting for the House of Reps, the House of Representatives, and it is projected that they will pass the bill today, or, it could be in the wee hours of tomorrow morning. And we all know that the government right now, Congress, they're pretty notorious for passing bills in the middle of the night when we're all trying to stay up and watch and wait. But sometimes they do not pass those bills until sometimes midnight, 1, 2 a.m., sometimes 11 p.m. So we're one of the ones that's up waiting for them to pass it. The current bill that's been passed by the Senate is a little over, I want to say 1,000 pages. A lot of times whenever they pass a bill, it's always over 1,000 pages. So just to hit a couple of high points here. So for individuals, the big thing that everyone's harping over is the $1,200 stimulus checks. So the $1,200 stimulus check. So that's for people who are making $75,000. Those are individuals. These aren't married. Making $75,000 or less, you can qualify for the full $1,200, and then an additional $500 per child. So again, if you have 2 children, that's $1,000. If you have 1 child, it's $500. So that's something to look out for sure. Now, if you are married, filing jointly, not married filing separate, but if you are married filing jointly, then you can get up to $2,400, right? So if you make $150,000 or less, you can qualify for that $2,400 as married filing jointly. Now, I'll come back to the caps and when it starts to phase out. But what they're looking at right now is if you have not filed your 2019 return, then they will go off of your 2018 return. But if you filed 2019, they'll go off of that. Now, as tax professionals, this here just throws up a lot of red flags for us, because they'll throw out things and say, oh, we're going to direct deposit. And the thing is, many people don't have direct deposit when they apply for, when they go and submit their tax returns. They may owe the IRS and never put their direct deposit information on there. Or think about, we have clients that got a divorce last year. There was one address on there that that neither one of them live at anymore. So, at what point are we really going off of 19 or 18? Because people's situations change. So, of course, as more information comes out, and I'm sure once the House of Representatives pass the bill, the IRS will go through their processes and processes to figure out how they're going to disseminate this information and how they're going to get the checks out. But if we compare what happened in 2009 during the Great Recession, when they gave out checks, I think those checks were around somewhere between $300 and $600. When they passed those, it took them about 3 weeks, and they mailed those out. So again, as more information comes in, then we surely will get more information out. And if so, we can send it through to everyone that's a part of this call to give you all the most updated information. Okay, let me check the questions here. Looks like, okay, so it looks like Chelsea said that the House just passed the bill, so that's good. I'm not sure if they made any changes. If they passed it this quick, they probably didn't make many changes from what the Senate suggested. And so I see another one. Is this just child or dependent? So if they're going off of tax returns, it's the dependents on your tax return. So that could be very confusing for parents who are claiming children every other year. So that could be a toss-up as well. The IRS and Congress have not given any type of guidance on who gets the stimulus check for the child. So, or will they duplicate payments and claim the child twice? I'm not sure how they're going to really handle that. Okay, so, and I had another question where someone asked, well, I just had a child this year and I haven't filed my return yet. So of course, my recommendation is to let's go ahead and file that return so that the child can be accounted for as you're dependent on your return. So we definitely need to get more information and read through the stimulus bill and see what guidance they will have. Do you need to file by a certain date? So no, they have not. Again, they haven't given guidance on when that you need to file. But if you file 2018, you're within the stimulus package or the bill where they will or can send you over your check, or if they do direct deposit. But if you haven't filed, then I highly recommend to file now, because if they're starting to release checks within the next, say, 3 to 4 weeks, then I would recommend that you need to file, yesterday or by the weekend, because the IRS still takes 7 to 21 days to process the return, as well as the refund. So that's something to consider when, you're may not file, you normally don't file, or if you're kind of a late filer. But if you file 2018, then there's technically no rush for 2019, unless your income dropped dramatically and you're within those parameters in 2019 when you weren't in 2018. So again, contact your accountant and tax professional for that one, because there may be some way that you can still qualify for it. let's see, are the checks taxable income? And that's a good question. So the word right now is no, it would not be taxable income. But again, I don't know what they will, what their final word will be on that. But normally, whenever the government gives you money, it's usually taxable to someone. That's normally the trend of how income works. If someone claims it as income, someone wrote it off somewhere. So that's a toss up. But the word that I've received and what I've read, the answer is no, but it could change. So I believe in 2009, the checks were taxable. So we'll see. We'll see. Things could change once, I get a moment to sit down and sift through the bill to see what applies and what doesn't apply. I'll surely pass that information out as soon as we know more for sure. Now, here's the other big thing. We've had, I kid you not, our phones have been blowing up around these loans for small businesses. Now, yes, they have billions of dollars worth of available money for small businesses and nonprofits to keep up and running right now. But let's take a step back and let's think about if times were tough any other time. Would you have qualified for a loan? Would you be able to pay that loan back? I get it. Everyone wants to get paid, and we all want to stay around. I'm not saying let's not take the loan, but we need to think about it in a larger perspective. If we are borrowing money, the money has to be paid back. So what if COVID-19 is going further than the 2 or 3 months that we're thinking or we're projecting? Or, what if it is longer than that and you can't make your payment whenever that first payment is? So the first thing that I've read that the first payment for these loans is not due for 90 days. It could go a little bit longer than that. We're unsure at the moment, but what if it does go longer? Now you have a loan on your books and you can't make your payment, and your doors are still not open, but your employees are still getting paid. So, it's something to truly think about when you're talking about loans. Now, if they have grants, then yes, apply for those grants. But everything that I've read thus far are talking about loans. Okay. Now, I always recommend for a business to have some sort of line of credit for just in case, so that you run your credit one time, right? So as a business owner, you're not separated from your business anymore, even though there is a liability separation there on the legality side of it. But whenever we do apply for those loans, that includes our personal information. So that personal information, when you keep pulling your personal credit, we all know what that does. That decreases your credit score by 1 point, 2 points or whatnot, or the basis points if you're into that terminology. So you have to think about that. And with the lines of credit, that money is always sitting there, right? And you do not have to go and apply, put in an application, wait to hear back for approval, and then receive the money. It's a quick transfer. It's like transferring from your checking to your savings account within your bank or your credit union. So that's something, to truly consider. Loans are good tools, but they have to be used for the right reasons. And you have to make sure that your business can sustain this time and afterward, because it's going to be a slow growth of people going out and getting back to our old normal. So businesses may not boom and generate income as quickly as we are projecting. So that's something, again, you have to consider all of those pieces when we're talking about loans. Okay. So let's see here. Alrighty. So some of the things as business owners, some of the things that we can do right now. So that would be filing your prior year returns. And like I stated earlier, that's electronically filing through a tax professional. We can file 2017, we can file 2018 and 2019 electronically, where the IRS receives those returns within 24 hours or less, instead of mailing it, and it takes the IRS 8 to 16 weeks to process. Okay. Hire an accountant. Okay. So hire an accountant or a tax professional because lots of small business owners try to DIY their accounting. Some of them do an amazing job. Some just spend hours, and again, studies show it's 120 hours a year on their books and taxes. But you're not in business to do that. So it just makes sense. If you look at whatever your hourly rate is and multiply that by 120, how many hours and how much money did you just waste? Okay. A lot of times it's just so much easier to, just hire someone else to handle that, because it's a lot involved. And of course, the ever changing laws, regulations, notices and all that stuff, it's very hard to keep up with all of it. And next thing you know, you end up becoming an accountant and you kind of forgot about what you got into business to do in the first place. So that's definitely, something to consider for sure. And a lot of my clients, they probably hate me saying it, but scan your receipts and put it into a digital format. So digitizing your receipts, because bank statements are never enough to support what you are deducting. A lot of people say, oh, my accountant said bank statements are enough. Bank statements are never enough, right? So you need your receipts, you need your financial statements, and you need the bank statements. All of it needs to tie together. So that's where the IRS feels more comfortable that everything that you've written off and all the income that you've claimed is true. And there's no fraudulent or tax evasion going on. So at that point, we can prove exactly what's going on there. So make sure that you get all those receipts scanned in, whether it's an assistant, an intern, a niece or nephew that's scanning it. Use your phone. We have a lot of technology going on. So, during this downtime, and it's not necessarily downtime, but with people being able to work at home, you don't have that commute to drive back and forth. And right now for many people, so you can use that time to go ahead and scan your receipts and gather all of your documents so that you can go ahead and file those returns, get your accounting in order, and get your business up and running in a better state than it was before. Now, of course, I would be remiss if I did not add in for every woman-owned business to get your woman-owned business certification so that you can secure government contracts. A lot of people and a lot of women don't apply for those. And those grants, they kind of go usually to the majority of women that may not look like us, right? So that's something to truly consider. And I mean, that's money. It's not necessarily free money because it is taxable, but that's money for you to be able to run your business, to be able to expand to new markets, to even just maintain what you have now, right? So that's something to truly consider. And the government is trying to give away that money. That's not included in, the stimulus package, but it's not a loan that you have to pay back, right? So that's something to truly consider. Now, again, if you are still considering a loan, which again, many businesses will still consider the loan, the loans will be backed by the Small Business Administration. So what that then does, it takes it down. You can go to your local bank or your local credit union, apply for the loans through SBA. Then you have to fill out the bank's application along with the SBA's application. They ask for very detailed information. And most of that detailed information, your accountant has, okay? So you need to reach out to them to get that information. If you don't already have access to your books, you don't have access to your returns or anything like that, be sure to reach out to them for that. Because again, like I said, majority of the information that you'll need for those applications, you will need to reach out to your accountant for it. And then I'm also providing the link to get updated information from the IRS. So they've created a landing page to give quick information. And again, the IRS doesn't have much. Okay, so the IRS is looked at like the police, right? So they're the ones that enforce the tax laws. They're not the ones that make the laws. Congress makes the laws. So as the IRS receives information, they will then disseminate it through their website and to tax professionals, and then of course news outlets. But if you hear it through a news outlet, always go back to the source. Go back to the IRS website or go back to your accountant to figure out or to confirm what you've heard. Because we all know we're all humans, and sometimes we make mistakes or we speak on things that we do not know about. Okay, so the irs.gov/coronavirus is a landing page for them. And of course, if you are a part of our email subscription, we have not sent out any emails to anyone who is not a current client right now. We've been sending emails over only to our clients. Once everything is finalized, again, once we read through the stimulus bill and see how this affects everyone, and once the IRS provides guidance, then we will go and send out more information to people who have subscribed to our email blast. But right now, I know my company, we are only sending emails out to our current clients. So that's definitely, I've given a lot of information there for sure. And let's see here, I'm gonna go to my next one here. And if you have, any questions, feel free to add that into the chat here. I have provided some of my information here. So I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And so my personal handle is Tax Advise Her. And the business handle is Distinct Tax Consulting. So of course we do provide complimentary discovery conference calls, but for everyone that is on here today, our conference calls are usually about 15 to 20 minutes. Everyone on here will get up to 1 hour. So just make sure that you put in your in your appointment within the notes section. It's going to ask, do you have anything else to share? Be sure to put, you can put in SIBU or Sisters in Business webinar, something that indicates that you were here on this webinar today, so that you can get your 1 hour discovery conference call with us instead of just the 15 to 20 minutes. So that is definitely something that you all can consider. I mean, that's free information for up to 1 hour. So that's, to help you through this time. So, if you guys have any questions, and I believe I've answered a lot of the questions throughout already. But yeah, thank you for having me, and give me a call if you have any questions, and the website is down below.
Thank you so much, Alysha. This has been so helpful for me too. A lot of good information, clarifying some of the messages and things we're hearing and seeing on TV and in the media. So thank you so much. If there are no other questions, I don't think we missed any. I'm just scrolling up very quickly to see. We will wrap up. Let's just see here. And thank you all for joining us today. I always like to commend those who take the time out of their schedules to educate and empower themselves. We can't expect others to invest in us if we don't invest in ourselves. And so This is one of the most important things that we can do as business owners, is to try to get as much information as we can, so that we have the resources and tools that we need to be successful business owners. Again, with the university, our courses aren't always free. During this time, we thought it was important to offer free offerings, but whether courses are free or not, we should always see the value in investing in ourselves. So thank you all for being with us today. Thank you again to Alysha and Distinct Tax. You have her contact information there on the screen. You also receive a link with access to this video in case you joined late or missed any parts of it. So we'll be available to you as well. Thank you all so much. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we hope to see you in person soon. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.